Pakistan, home to 230 million people, is teetering on the brink of an unprecedented economic crisis. Once known for its resilience in the face of adversity, this South Asian nation now faces challenges so severe that experts fear a ripple effect across the global economy. How did a country with such potential, a key player in China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative and a critical exporter of textiles and labor, fall into such disarray? And more importantly, what does this mean for the rest of the world? The story of Pakistan's economy is not just a local tragedy, it's a global wake-up call. Over the past year, devastating floods wiped out entire communities and caused over $30 billion in damages. At the same time, soaring fuel prices, a plummeting rupee, and mounting foreign debts have left the government scrambling to stay afloat. Meanwhile, international loans from the IMF and China have come with strings so tight that they could determine the nation's future for decades to come. If these issues sound dire, they're just the beginning of what we'll uncover. In this video, we'll explore how Pakistan reached this breaking point, the economic strategies being implemented to turn the tide, and the lessons it holds for nations navigating a volatile global economy. Stay tuned because every detail matters, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Economy Explorer. Your engagement helps us bring these crucial stories to life. Historical resilience, the unyielding spirit of Pakistan's economy. In 1998, while much of Asia trembled under the weight of the Asian financial crisis, Pakistan stood defiant. At a time when neighbors like Thailand and Indonesia saw their economies unravel, Pakistan managed to weather the storm with surprising stability. Its currency, though not immune to pressure, avoided the dramatic freefall that gripped other nations. But how did Pakistan, a developing economy heavily reliant on exports and remittances, survive such a financial onslaught while more established economies faltered? The answer lies in a combination of geopolitical strategy, resourcefulness, and sheer resilience. One of the key factors in Pakistan's survival was its minimal reliance on foreign investors compared to its peers. During the crisis, nations with pegged currencies and heavy foreign borrowing found themselves trapped when foreign reserves dried up. Pakistan, by contrast, operated on a smaller scale, with less exposure to international debt markets. Ironically, the very limitations that hindered its growth, such as a less globalized economy, shielded it from the worst of the crisis. The government's tight control over its currency and a reliance on domestic production helped maintain a fragile equilibrium. But resilience isn't just about surviving external shocks. Pakistan's history is punctuated by moments that could have broken weaker economies. In 1998, the same year as the financial crisis, Pakistan faced international sanctions after conducting nuclear weapons tests. These sanctions, meant to cripple its economy, came on top of one of the worst droughts in its history, which devastated agricultural output. Yet, Pakistan not only endured, but managed modest economic growth during this period. It wasn't through grand reforms or abundant resources, but through adaptability and support from its extensive diaspora, who continued to send vital remittances back home. Another remarkable example of resilience came after the September 11th attacks in 2001. Pakistan faced mounting pressure as a frontline state in the global war on terror, receiving a flood of refugees from neighboring Afghanistan and enduring further sanctions and political scrutiny. Despite these challenges, its economy remained functional, driven by the determination of its people and the support of strategic international partnerships. These years tested Pakistan's ability to adapt under extreme circumstances, revealing an economy that, while fragile, had an extraordinary capacity to bend without breaking. If Pakistan has shown one thing, it's that its economic resilience is deeply tied to its ability to face adversity head-on. But even the strongest systems have their limits. So, What changed to bring Pakistan to its current state of crisis? Let's explore the cracks that have formed in this resilient foundation. Current economic challenges, a nation on the brink. The bustling streets of Karachi, once a symbol of resilience and commerce, now paint a starkly different picture. Small businesses shuttered, markets echoing with fewer buyers, and rising fuel prices leaving vehicles abandoned. These scenes reflect a deeper malaise, an economy grappling with cascading challenges that threaten its very foundation. Pakistan's current economic turmoil is not the result of a single blow, but a series of interwoven crises that have compounded over time. At the heart of the issue lies Pakistan's dwindling foreign currency reserves, which have fallen to critical levels, limiting the country's ability to pay for essential imports like oil, food, and medicine. With less than 2 months of import cover, the government has resorted to drastic measures such as banning non-essential imports and restricting currency outflows. Yet, these actions have only fueled panic. Black market rates for the rupee have skyrocketed, creating a parallel economy that undermines trust in official financial institutions. This has left ordinary citizens caught in the crossfire, struggling to secure basic necessities as prices soar. Energy dependence is another glaring challenge. Pakistan's reliance on imported fuels has made it acutely vulnerable to global price shocks. The war in Ukraine further exacerbated this vulnerability as oil and gas prices surged, straining the country's fragile finances. Compounding this are inefficiencies within Pakistan's energy infrastructure, including outdated power plants and an over-reliance on Chinese-built facilities. While these projects were meant to bolster the nation's energy supply, their high operational costs and repayment obligations have instead deepened the financial strain. Natural disasters have dealt a devastating blow to an already fragile economy. The 2024 floods, among the worst in the nation's history, submerged large swaths of agricultural land, displacing millions and causing over $30 billion in damages. Agriculture, a critical sector that employs a large portion of Pakistan's population, has been particularly hard hit, leading to food shortages and skyrocketing prices. The ripple effects of these floods extend far beyond agriculture, disrupting supply chains and straining government resources already stretched thin. As if these issues weren't enough, external debt obligations loom ominously. Pakistan owes billions to international creditors, including the IMF and China, with repayment deadlines approaching fast. These debts come with strings attached, forcing the government to implement austerity measures that are deeply unpopular among its citizens. Cuts to subsidies on fuel and electricity have sparked protests, adding political instability to the mix. For the average Pakistani, this means higher living costs, frequent power outages, and dwindling hope for economic recovery. With each passing day, the challenges seem to mount. Yet, the question remains, can Pakistan navigate its way out of this storm? Or will these compounded crises mark a turning point in the nation's economic history? To answer that, we need to explore the strategies and solutions on the table. Let's dive into what's being done to stem the tide. Proposed solutions and global implications, navigating a path forward. In a crowded conference room in Islamabad, government officials sit across from representatives of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, hammering out the details of a $7 billion loan package. The stakes couldn't be higher. With foreign reserves critically low and debt repayments looming, these funds are not just lifelines, they're survival tools. But loans of this scale come with strings attached, and for Pakistan, these strings are both economic lifelines and potential nooses. The IMF's conditions are tough but unsurprising: remove subsidies on fuel and electricity, introduce market-driven exchange rates, and increase tax revenues. For a government already grappling with political unrest, these measures are deeply unpopular. Citizens are bearing the brunt of higher fuel prices and electricity bills, triggering widespread protests. Yet, these reforms are necessary to stabilize the economy, attract foreign investment, and restore global confidence in Pakistan's financial system. They represent a bitter pill, essential for recovery, but hard to swallow for a population struggling to make ends meet. China's involvement offers another layer of complexity. As Pakistan's largest creditor, with over $30 billion in loans tied to the Belt and Road Initiative, China has a vested interest in ensuring its partner remains solvent. While Beijing has extended debt repayment deadlines and offered additional loans, these come at a cost. Critics argue that Pakistan's increasing reliance on Chinese funds risks turning it into a debt-dependent state, vulnerable to political leverage. For China, the stakes are just as high. A default by Pakistan would undermine the credibility of the Belt and Road Initiative, sending shockwaves across other developing nations reliant on Chinese investments. At the same time, Pakistan's government is attempting to diversify its economy and reduce reliance on imports. Initiatives to bolster domestic industries, from agriculture to textiles, are gaining traction. But these solutions require time that Pakistan may not have. Efforts to attract foreign direct investment, FDI, hinge on political stability and infrastructure improvements, both of which remain fragile. Without immediate relief, these long-term strategies risk being overshadowed by short-term crises. The global implications of Pakistan's economic struggles extend far beyond its borders. As one of the world's largest exporters of labor, its remittance flows are crucial to economies like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and even Western nations. A collapse in Pakistan's economy would disrupt these labor markets, creating ripple effects that could destabilize sectors reliant on Pakistani workers. Moreover, its strategic position in South Asia makes Pakistan a geopolitical fulcrum, critical to trade routes and regional stability. A prolonged crisis could invite further external interference, complicating efforts for a sustainable recovery. While the proposed solutions offer glimmers of hope, they also highlight the tightrope Pakistan must walk to avoid plunging deeper into crisis. The question remains, can these measures deliver relief fast enough to stem the tide, or will the weight of their consequences push Pakistan closer to the edge? Let's explore what the future may hold for this embattled economy. The crossroads of Pakistan's economy. As the sun sets over Islamabad's parliament buildings, the looming question remains. Can Pakistan rise from the brink, or is it destined to follow the path of collapse? Throughout its history, Pakistan has demonstrated remarkable resilience, whether surviving economic sanctions, navigating geopolitical turbulence, or rebuilding after natural disasters. But today, the stakes are higher than ever, with a fragile global economy amplifying every misstep. The solutions on the table, IMF reforms, Chinese loans, and domestic initiatives, are ambitious yet fraught with risks. For the average Pakistani, these high-level decisions translate to immediate struggles, paying higher electricity bills, dealing with rolling blackouts, and watching the value of their savings erode. While international assistance provides a lifeline, it also demands sacrifices that could fuel social unrest and political instability. The balance between short-term pain and long-term recovery is razor-thin, leaving little room for error. But Pakistan's economy is more than numbers on a ledger. It's the story of millions striving to build a better future amidst extraordinary challenges. From the farmers whose fields were flooded to the overseas workers sending home every penny they can spare, these individuals embody a spirit of perseverance. The global implications of their struggles remind us that no nation operates in isolation. Whether through trade, labor, or geopolitical ties, Pakistan's fate is intertwined with the world's. As we close this chapter, the lessons are clear. Resilience can only carry a nation so far without structural change and responsible governance. The question isn't